front row is the 2 of Sean Varwig with a 3:09.5. He'll be alongside Brett Scroggin in number 51 in the BMW M2 competition coupe. That's a GT4 class car. Fast time was a 3:03.7. 16 cars answering the qualified. 15 cars looks like they'll be answering the call. There goes your ceremonial pace cars as they start to advance from the field. We'll start to see them pair up on the North Circuit. Jordan, what are some of the keys to this GT Challenge race?
Well, the biggest thing, I think, the keys to winning this race is survival. You know, it's going to be a race of attrition with the way the track layout is and how big this track is. I mean, we're talking 3.5 miles around this full Autobahn circuit with the north and south tracks combined together. So a lot of couple of twists and turns and a lot of track and a lot of turns that feel like they're on ice. Turn 2 especially here on the turn 1 on the south course feels very treacherous. There's only literally one groove that I think is going to be the key, and that's going to be the outside groove. Whoever can rim shot the outside the best and is going to be able to hold it is what's going to come out with all the group. Otherwise, you're going to be like trialing on ice. Turn 8, turn 9, and turn 10. That whole complex right there, the exact same thing. Just going to feel like on ice as well as turn 16 over on the North Circuit. So get through all the slow speed corners and be able to keep your wheels on the black stuff. I think you're going to come away with a good result or maybe even a win at the end of the day.
All right, field working their way around into turn number 15 and into 16. They're starting to pair up on the backside of the circuit. As the field working their way around 2 by 2, and the field looks great through turn number 16. Looking at the inside of Tom Herb as he comes around and going to start to pair up. But that's going to be interesting, is seeing the in-car cameras. And with the way the track is, how the driver visibility is going to be. I'm really excited to see how that's going to change throughout the day. Look at that. Nice side-by-side action. Lights out on the pace car. As we said, your front row, it's Brett Scroggin, the 51, Sean Varwig in the 2. Varwig fresh off the Porsche Carrera Cup presented by Deluxe Weekend at Road Atlanta. See how he does in equipment that he's used to as they come around turn number 18 and 19. Your field starting to scraggle out just a little bit as we see Mike Heck falling back just a wee bit from Shane Leathers in the 275s. They come down the straightaway into the start stand. Eyes on Kim Joyner, our starter. Looks at the field. He's going to throw the green flag, and we're underway. Sean Varwig with the early jump, and no surprise there with the higher horsepower between he and Scroggin. Scroggin's going to have to defend Shane Leathers as he comes around turn number 1. And look at that on the outside. A little bit of a slide from Keck, but he's able to secure 4th place. He's going to try and go to the outside of Shane Leathers, but Leathers able to power through going into turn number 2.
A little bit of a sideways battle there as now Sean Varwig came into the corner there, sliding through turn number 2. Scroggin able to kind of scroll right back up to the back band of Varwig as we might be having a battle for the lead going through turn number 3. Side-by-side battle. Here comes Scroggin to the inside of Sean Varwig.
And Scroggin going to have to wait just a little bit as he's going to have to get off the gas just a little bit to get through turn number 4. And that's a little bit of a slicker section because it's lower and you've got the tree, so you're not going to have the sun on it right away. That's going to play a part later on in the race. It's about 2 car length separation between Varwig, your leader, in the number 2 Porsche, and the number 51 of Brett Scroggin.
I'll tell you something else that's big as well. Mike Heck has pushed himself up to the 3rd spot. He's split the 2 between the GT5 cars of himself and Bob Noren with the Porsche of Shane Leathers in the middle. A little bit of squirreliness coming out of turn number 5 there as one car gets a little sideways and a little out of shape. Keeps it going on the black stuff as the field continues their way through turn number 6, 7, and 8 for the first time around Oktoberfast.
And Keck, he goes off. We're just about ready to say, Leathers spins off, trying to avoid Keck in the 691. Coming off of turn number 8, and now we're starting to see the Tom Herb spin off. So drivers trying to check up as we see the in-car camera. Nothing Herb can do. He's just watching cars go by as he's sitting sideways between turns number 8 and 9 as we're watching to see if he can get it back on. Let's see if we can hear if he has power on the live stream and he's still sitting there. Tom Herb's still sitting there. He turns the wheel. Yeah, he's able to get the car going. So mess of an issue in turn number 8 with Keck going off, Leather spinning off to avoid, and Herb having to spin to avoid both of them. I was just going to say, Keck holds a 20-point lead over Nori in GT5, so this could have implications.
Absolutely, and it's such a helpless feeling for like Tom Herb just went through, is knowing you're spinning out, you're stuck on the racetrack, duck in the water. As we got a car off over in exit of turn number 12 there, right next to the driver's left-hand side, next to the wall. I believe that might be the 023 of Sean V, I believe. We'll have to get a little bit closer look on that as the car comes out of the grass right now. But like I said, it's such a helpless feeling being there on the racetrack, knowing that everyone else is coming by and you can't do anything. You're just kind of a sitting duck. That might have been actually the 7 of Ron Roshinsky. It was the 7 of Ron Roshinsky.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see what car it is because all three of our BMWs have white on there. But nonetheless, on the screen, yeah, that is looks like it is the 7 of Roshinsky that did the off. On the screen, we still had that battle between Varwig and Scroggin, and let's see how drivers are tiptoeing through turn number 6. So far, so good, as drivers taking separate lines in and around the surface. Your leader is Sean Varwig in the 2 alongside Brett Scroggin, and that's 0.8 of a second, and that lead going around turn number 1 and into 2 as... Yeah, it looks like that Varwig, he's able to get around that, but let's see what happens this next time by, because we did see Varwig a little slow through turn number 3. Drivers starting to feel out where they need to be. We're running about the lap times we saw in qualifying.
Yeah, very close to it. So the track kind of staying the same right now. Actually, Sean's been able to kick up the notch a little bit here as he was running a 3:09 in qualifying. Now able to run a 3:02. That was faster than our pole lap time actually in qualifying at the moment. As we got almost a side-by-side battle going to turn number 4. Scroggin all over the back bumper, keeping the pressure up on number 2 of Sean Varwig as they go through 4.
And what's interesting is Varwig having to hold off just a little bit more onto Scroggin as I think he's a little bit closer this time by as they go through turn number 6. And it seems like Varwig's really good there through the first part of the circuit. Then what we would say sector 2 of the South Course, that's where you see Scroggin able to catch up. Field working their way around. This is the battle for the lead. And you're going to see, it looks like the way that I'm seeing the line, Varwig, a little wiggle out of Varwig. Looks like Varwig actually still has the wets where, yeah, looks like that the 51 is Scroggin able to answer. So could Scroggin be on a separate tire?
Well, right now, I believe it's got the power to weight ratio. You have the Sean Varwig's car, which is a little bit heavier car in the middle of the corner, but has much more power down the straightaway, able to gap him going down the back straightaway. Scroggin has nothing he can do with terms of power, but what he can be able to do is go a little bit deeper on the brakes, stop the car a little bit more, roll more speed through the middle, and that's exactly what you're seeing between the 51 of Brett Scroggin through the slow speed corners, able to get the car pointed a little bit straight, get back on the power, and try to get the acceleration speed that he needs down the straightaway to try to make a battle with Sean Varwig.
And Scroggin's one of those drivers that we saw what he could do in equipment. There's the battle for GT5 real quick between Keck and Norian. I want to get back to my point, though, on Scroggin. We saw how well he did last year in TC America. First time out, Watkins going at a track that he's not familiar with. Look at how well he did. He is a driver's driver, so seeing him battle the Porsche of Sean Varwig is no surprise here, and Varwig's no slouch either. We got one car off in turn number 10. I do believe that's the 02 Chris Berry. We'll get a confirmation from the corner here shortly. And yeah, that is the 02 of Chris Berry. He spun, and he's back underway. And I think we're just going to see that as drivers are getting used to a track that they're not used to throughout the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Most of the guys out here are driving in the dry weather tires, so that way when they're out here on track, it's totally different than what they're used to. These are sometimes conditions that we're not really used to or not much of a factor of because the rain racing happens a lot. We got a car off over in turn number 17, I would say, on the North Circuit, now trying to kind of get his back self onto the racetrack right now, and that is the 51 of Brett Scroggin. The second-place driver, Brett Scroggin, has lost it off to the exit of turn number 17, has now gotten passed by Mike Keck and Bob Norian. Rain joins the race, and he's now sitting in position number 4 on the racetrack. Brett Scroggin, a huge, huge heartbreak for him right here.
Well, the race is still early, so anything can happen. We saw a little wiggle out of Nori as he came around turn number 18 and 19. So that lead that Scroggin has now is 20 seconds. Still got a good battle for 5th place right now, for GT5, I should say, between Keck and Norian. That's the battle for 2nd. Also a great battle further back between Val in the number 24, Scott Benning Sr. in the 59, and John Ranty in the 339. That's the battle. Actually, I'm sorry. That's David Varwig. So David Varwig is in there. So it's Benning Sr., Ranty, and Varwig. David Varwig, that's the battle for 8th place as they go down the front straightaway to complete yet another lap.
John Ranty has been doing a really good job as here's the onboard camera of Tom Hurd on the comeback trail right now. Goes to the outside of Dan Gov down the front straightaway. He'll pick up another spot, move him up into the 12th position here as now we get to see the onboard battle and the battle of the onboards, I would say, that we have with Dan Gov and both Tom Herb having onboard cameras.
Yeah, that's a great shot there of Tom Herb getting around Dan Gove. And now we get to see if Gove can hang around with his GT1 compatriot. And it looks like Herb is actually starting to open up the gap. So we'll get to see what happens here in the next couple of laps. But a crazy couple of laps here as we've seen offs, we've seen spins, and we're seeing some great battles here. As Ranty now trying to go to the inside of Benning Sr. in turn number 4. And I think he's going to do it. We'll see what happens when they come out of 4. But that's also a great battle there. And, yeah, we see Ranty going around Benning. Here comes David Varweg to the inside of Benning for position. So in just a couple of corners, Benning Sr. looks like he's lost it. No, Benning Sr.'s not going to let David Varweg get by so easily. And Varweg, the senior, decides to go ahead and get around. So in a matter of a couple of corners, Benning Sr. has lost a couple of positions, but that's going to give him time to set up and make his move further up the field.
As we now just gone past 2 laps in the race, we still got about 10 laps left to go here in this race, so we still got a long way left to go in this race. But the action has been heating up on the racetrack everywhere else. We've seen battles left and right. We've seen action both on and off the track, given the take. But nonetheless, action is still heating up as John Ranty has now pulled a little bit of a gap over David Varweg down the back straightaway. See 2 of the BMWs going back into turn number 7. Sean Varweg continues to extend his lead as he now goes through turn number 17 and into 18.
All right, this is one of those situations, Jordan, where you know what the track is changing. We're starting to see more sunlight. As we look at turn number 8, we see the clouds moving in and giving a little bit more light. As we're watching that battle for GT5 lead right now, it's still Keck and Norian 1 and 2. That's where they sit in the points. It's separated by 20 points, and Hammond is right behind them. And it looks like we've lost sight of Scroggin as well. So we'll keep an eye on that. But let's get back to the point I was going to make. At a point like this, I know it's tough to make a decision, but as a driver, are you opting for slick tires, possibly knowing that the track's going to change, or do you stay on the wets and hope that you could still get a wet line at the end?
Yeah, right now it's to the point to where the track is not drying at all. It is still remaining wet, but with the sun being now potentially trying to generate some heat, you got more cars on track too that potentially could start generating some heat as well. The track is going to slowly slide to get better. So that's why we can probably see what happened to Brett Scroggin is that he felt the grip was getting better. He felt like he could push it more in the corners. He's tried taking a little bit extra step, tried to push it a little bit more to try to stay up with Sean Varweg, and that's when you overstep. You tend to get a little bit to that optimism range to where you feel like you have more grip than you actually do. You push it a little bit too much because you feel like there's more grip that's there. Next thing you know, you're sliding off the track because you have no grip, no front end, and next thing you know, you're in the grass trying to find your way back on the track.
Well, you saw right there that Tom Herm making his way around the circuit. He's gotten around David Varweg. He's gotten around Scott Benning Sr., and now he's moving his way up the field. We're going to wait for timing to reset itself so we can see where Tom Herb is exactly. 161 is the car. He's up 1. He also made a special announcement last weekend at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Tom's going to be a grandpa, so congratulations to Tom. And I know he's overjoyed at the announcement, but he's been making moves himself in the GT3 Sprint class, which is the USAC version. And it's great that we're seeing 2 different classes. And in my opinion, it's making both series better because they're more competitive, because you don't have somebody who says, oh, I can run GT3 and ends up running the IMSA series and gets left at the back. Now they're actually being competitive in a different series where they can work themselves up to an IMSA series.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a good training ground, and it's a good proving ground as well, as we've seen multiple drivers go through that the SCCA series to move up into IMSA racing. It's a great place to kind of get your feet wet into what professional racing is like, and then when you got yourself feel like you're confident enough, ready to go to the next level, the IMSA series is always there and always inviting to let you in. So nonetheless, really great series, and I'd love to see that Tom Herb has been able to take the bull by the horns in that case and has been able to run with it, take the ball, run with it, and made it into a great championship to what it has been today.
And it goes to show his ethic as well, because he's one of the big voices for the Autobahn Driver Academy. You see it on his hood. You hear him talking about it, not only on social media, but he doesn't walk the walk. He still talks the talk as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we started up a new program earlier this year, the Race Day Prep program, that helped drivers get ready for the upcoming races. So the whole program was basically you come out the day before. We've practiced on, let's say, the North Track. We're racing on the North Track. We're going to practice on the North Track. So you come out the day before. Basically, all your lapping in a day, track day in the day before you go on track and do adjustments, can learn some things, and then whatever you learn in that class, you basically apply it to the race. And Tom came up to me and said, how'd the event go? I want next event, if you got a lot of people, I want to be a part of it and maybe help you out. So he is there, he is inviting, and he wants to be able to help out because he wants to see not only the Autobahn thrive, but the racing series and the member racing series that I have here thrive as well.
And the academy is not just for up and coming drivers. It's for anybody who wants to learn how to race prep. And you don't have to go into pro racing. Oh, we got one car off. And I do. That's another BMW that's off. And that is the 7-around Rashinsky. So Rashinsky with another slide off in turn number 11. And that sounds like it's another issue of a driver thinking they have more grip than what they do. All right, let's get back to talking about the Autobahn Driver Academy. I said it's not just for the young drivers. I mean, yes, they are being highlighted. We saw last year with Connor Willis, this year with Matteo Azzari. You don't have to go pro racing. This is just something to get you ready for any kind of racing, whether it's here, whether it's SCCA, whether it's going and running 24 hours with lemons. It's to get yourself ready for whatever comes next.
Absolutely, and we highlighted Matteo Azzari earlier this year as the Young Driver Award. That whole award is basically like who puts in the most work and who's been improving the most, out of a driver, not only from an on-track standpoint, from a professional standpoint as a driver, how do they uphold themselves, how they hold themselves as a character off the racetrack when they're talking to members. That's kind of what we look for in terms of who we're selecting for our Driver Academy. But that goes a long way even with our members too. If a member can walk the walk, knows what he's talking about, he treats himself a little bit more professionally here, he's going to become a much better racer and understand what it takes to be on the racetrack and be quick on the racetrack all day long. As we see a side-by-side battle as Tom Herb goes to the inside of Dave Barwick into turn number 1. He'll take up another spot, move Tom Herb up to the 9th spot. But going back to what we were talking about, the Driver Academy has been really good this year. I mean, we've had a lot of guys go through it, and we started to see them be able to practice on the racetrack. They've been getting much better. For an example, Bill Hamill was one of the guys who came through the program. He did the one of the race day preps. Next race, shaved off 3 seconds faster of his time and went as fast as he ever gone around this place. So it just shows that there's been guys around here who have they've been driving for so many years, but they just haven't found out how to get that extra couple seconds out of their car.
That's amazing. That's great to hear. So definitely reach out to Jordan or go log on to the Autobahn Country Club website for more information on the Driver Academy. You see it working for our drivers going up into the pro ranks, which you're actually hoping to go up a step or two here in the next season as well. Look at that beautiful shot over at turn number 13. The colors really popping this time of year.
And that's one of the trademark things about the Autobahn Country Club here at the Oktoberfast is when the sun really reflects down on the north track, the colors start to change, the leaves are changing, everything. It looks like a picturesque view that we could see from turn number 3. So a lot of different colors, a lot of different vibrants that are happening out there. It is definitely something to see over there in turn number 3. As now the times are also starting to drop too, so we could definitely tell the track is getting a little bit faster. It is starting to dry up a little bit. With Sean Varwood now doing a 2:58.0 is his fastest lap. Brett Scrogger did a 2:59. These two guys are the first guys in the 2:58 and 2:59s throughout the whole course of the day.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. 18 seconds now, the gap between Varwig and Scroggin. They're both running identical lap times, so it's going to be hard for Scroggin to catch up. It's going to take a little bit of helping in order for Scroggin to catch up. We do see Dan Gove on board, and there's Dan right there as he's battling the number 59 of Scott Benning Sr. That is an out-of-class battle between a GT4 and a GT1. Gove and starting near the back, but then again, as we mentioned earlier, it's a car that is made to go fast at the front.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, when you bring in the rain factor too, it makes it a lot harder for Dan Gove as well because he's got so much horsepower underneath that Corvette under his right foot that he can't go all the way to it. I mean, I've done it in the radical as well. You have to be very partial maintenance throttle around here. And if you just go back onto the gas pedal, you're going to get the rear tire spinning, and next thing you know, the whole back end of the car is going to come around. So you have to be very modulant and very careful with using that right foot of a pedal right there, as it's got so much horsepower underneath your right foot.
Well, you've had a couple of rain races. What is that like when the track conditions are changing in a situation like that? And, yeah, they're changing, but they're not going to change completely like what we're seeing here.
I always like to say that when it comes to a rain race, I like these conditions better where it goes from wet and it's getting drier rather than going from a dry to a wet race. The reason why that is because the conditions from this area, you're already going cautious, and you know where your aggression level and your top end aggression level is. So as you continue to feel the track getting faster and faster, you could start to build up that aggression level. Where you're going from a dry track into a wet track, you know where your aggression level is, and then you have to kind of tone it back ever so slightly every now and then, and just trying to figure out where that limit is. It's so marginal that if you just go over a little bit overstep it, you could find yourself spinning out potentially into the grass and potentially into the wall. But, we just got to, when you're trying to go from that area right here where it's wet to dry, you can just build up your aggression, and your confidence is still there throughout the course of the time the track is drying up.
Sean Farwig, Brett Scroggin, and Mike Keck, your top three. It's 251 and 691. Great shot of the old second bank deck. And we encourage you to experience the new all new old second deck. There's no better place to view today's lapping and racing activities if you're not watching on the live stream and you're at the facility than the Old Second Bank. Well, we thank you to Autobahn's newest partner, Old Second Bank. You know what I say? Well, let's see if we can get an in-car view with Tom Herr, because it's great to see him sawing on that wheel. And you know what, Jordan? Let's sit back and listen to that flat six for just a lap as he goes around the full circle. Got a tight battle out on the circuit actually right now, and it's still between the 59 of Scott Benning Sr. and the 91 of Dan Gove. They'll be coming into picture here shortly. And Jordan, we've talked about it as this battle here. There it is right now between Gove and Benning. I keep forgetting that we have the in-car from Dan Gove. Oh, a little bit of a wiggle. And it's interesting because they're both high-performance cars, but they're a separate class of cars. That's a neat shot from the drone right there. Gove was able to get through perfectly on the straightaways, but once it comes to the corners, Benning's able to open up a little bit of gap there.
And you know what? These cars are coming straight into your living room if that's the case. And Dan Gove, we just saw there, has been hard at work this entire race. He is sawing on that wheel. Someone's going to have to get him water by the end of this race here because he's going to be tired from just sawing on that wheel so much. His arms are going to be pumping after this. But it just shows you how difficult and how treacherous these conditions are. Every corner, you're just sawing at the wheel because you're just losing traction. The grip level here is very minimal. Right there, as you can see how gentle he's being on the wheel. Has to have a little bit of a catch there. That's just all the car management and all of the throttle control and car placement that you have to put on this racetrack. Because if you put the car in a different spot on the racetrack and it's very slick there, you have yourself a handful. If you're on the outer edge of the track here, you have yourself a nice dry area, but it's grippy, a lot more grippy or offline here, and that's what we call with the rain line here on the Autobahn.
And I've got to say this. We always talk about, drivers coming in and trying to make a difference in these series. Tip of the cap to Dan Gove. I can remember where there were one, maybe two GT1 cars, and he would constantly be on the phone talking to drivers. Oh, look at speaking of GT1, look who's going to come and put those two a lap down. Anyway, Dan Gove was instrumental in making this GT1 class bigger today. If there's anyone who should be thanked for the support for the growth of this series, Dan should be at the top of that list.
He is definitely a man of his word, and he is someone who loves to see this GT1 series thrive, and he puts in his blood, sweat, and tears and efforts to keep the GT1 series going. Especially when there's no one who shows up, you can bet your bottom dollar Dan is showing up here to be the one and only GT1 car, if anything, but to keep the participation and the growth of the series keeping alive and keeping going.
And I bet you there's somebody else who's not here who's going, hey, why aren't you guys talking about me? Oh, a little bit of a wiggle from Dan Gove. Anyway, as I was going to say, you know who I'm talking about, who probably be buzzing one of our phones going, you guys aren't talking about me. Come on. Really? It's good old Charlie Margosian. Charlie, we miss you here, buddy, and he's big and instrumental in all this as well. Battle for GT5 still heating up between Keck and Norian as they come around turn number 9. It's about, I'd say, 6-7 car lengths between the two of them as they come down through the back part. Also, don't discount Jim Hammond back there either. Talking about somebody who doesn't come to the races much, most of his time is spent international GT. He does a great job. He has a great team with TLM. But when he comes here to Autobahn, runs with Eurosport, runs with Fall Line, has a great time no matter what. And it's always great to see the Hammonds here at Autobahn.
As well as with Jim Hammond, he's come here to do the Oktoberfast race. It always comes back here probably to do this race once a year, if anything. But he's still got about 4 more races left on the year. So his season just isn't done after this. He's still got about 4 more races left on the year. So as we continue on with rolling with this battle here, Jim Hammond still continuing the race throughout the course of the season.
Yeah, and it'd be great to have Stevie here too, so the two of them can go together. I tell you what, you talk about somebody who's really been doing good these past couple of years, both Stevie and Jim. It's also great to follow their progress throughout the year, on their live stream as well. But regardless, take a look at this battle here for GT5. Try to watch around the course as well. And everybody kind of feeling their way out. We've got about 4 laps to go. Varwig, Scroggin, and Keck still your top 3. Keck trying to get around. That's for the battle for 3rd overall in GT Challenge right there. If you were to say that and somebody thought, oh, well, it must be interesting conditions. Yeah, it's very interesting conditions, to say the least. But nonetheless, this is it's a race. It's not a race of trying to get to the front. It's a race of patience today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we keep looking at it, and the track is getting drier nonetheless, but there's still a lot of spray coming off some of these tires that we're seeing on the racetrack right now. So with the track still drying up a little bit, it's still a little treacherous on the racetrack. So we're keeping people right now, everyone's still trying to tiptoe their way on through the whole track, but they're trying to figure out where there's more grip so they can go a little bit faster. Every now and then, we see laps start to continue to wind down. Sean Varwick as well has done the fastest lap of the race. He's done 2:54.6 has been his fastest. Brett Scroggins continuing to speed under the 2:59, but we're starting to see Mike Keck and Bob Norian are now slowly getting themselves underneath the 3-minute mark as we see a couple of cars going through turns 9 and 10. That looks like the 59 of Scott Benning Jr., and I believe that is the 023, I believe, of Sean V., I believe, coming through the order.
That's actually the 51 of Brett Scroggin trying to put his lap down on 59 of Benning and Gove in the 91. But, yeah, in spite of the issues, look at how – I've got to say, it's almost fitting the home wrecker racing BMW with a nice little dent on the side panel of the car. And this is it just goes to show that anything can happen, especially in GT racing. You think, you usually think with the Spec Miata or with you guys in Radical Cup, they're all spec cars, so mayhem abounds everywhere. But GT Challenge, you think, okay, it's good, pure racing. When mayhem happens like this, it's like, whoa, this is actually pretty interesting, in spite of there being gaps of, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. There's gaps everywhere, but there's still battles to be found.
Yeah, and it's not even like you're racing against your different class opponents. I mean, good thing about GT is there's so many cars on the track and so many cars that have different variations of speed that you may not be battling somebody that's in your class for position, let's just say, but you're battling somebody else on the racetrack that is with you. You know, you're battling somebody else who's very close in terms of speed, like we're talking about with Sean Varwick and Brett Scroggin. They are very close in terms of the speed throughout the course of the day, but they're in two different classes of cars. One's a GT1, the other one's a GT4. But if you were talking about cars who are in the same class, we look no further than Mike Keck and Bob Norian, who have been dueling it out throughout the course of this whole entire year. As you mentioned, Jeremy, 20 points separate them two throughout the course of the season, and they're not going to let that 20 points stand in between them two as they go through turn number 16. Bob Norian has closed the gap tremendously on Mike Keck. We're going to see a battle here between these two in the next couple of corners.
And looking at, looks like 27 of Jim Hammond trying to hold, but puts Chris Berrielap down, so that's interesting to watch. But yeah, we're still watching at GT5 battles. They come around turn number 17, and it's not just this season that we see those two battle. It's every race, every season, neck and neck. It's always those two. You can count on those two to be at the front with Keck and Norian as they'll come down the front straightaway. We're watching Jim Hammond making his way around turn number 18. And wait a second. Did Keck just lose the lead? Yeah, he lost the lead in GT5. So move Norian to the lead. And now that gap closes to within 10. Oh my, we may have a battle on our hands here.
Yeah, Norian must have, or Keck must have lost it coming out of turn number 18 and 19 there. Maybe got a little bit wide, a little bit squirrely, maybe too much on the throttle there on the exit of 19. It is a little treacherous there in the middle of 18 and 19 there. So maybe a little bit of throttle might have upset the rear of the car. Had to gather it back up, and Norian was firm on the power, able to get on by him. Nonetheless, the MX-5 of Bob Norian is now past the 994 of Mike Keck.
I just got some inside information that drivers, especially on the front straightaway, starting to search for puddles. So it looks like we're starting to get to that point where the rain tires, they may start to wear out a little quicker. Here's your battle for the GT5 lead, third place overall, and that's between the 89 of Bob Norian and the 691 of Mike Keck. Field working their way around. Again, this is the battle for GT5 overall. Norian getting a little squirrely through turn number 8. Keck able to close in. He's going to look to the inside as they work their way around turn number 9. And Norian able to hold on to that lead. I'll tell you what, with as long as he's had that car, he's able to really know that car control very quickly.
And the other thing, too, is because we're racing in the rain as well, the line differentiation is totally different. We just saw right there, Mike Keck went a little bit lower in turn number 9, then he went a little bit lower again in turn number 10. Two different distinctive lines that we're seeing here as Bob Norian takes the normal line, slides a little bit there, goes through the stream of water, comes through turn number 12, able to slide back out there. But that's the thing, like when you look through turn number 11 there's two distinctive lines. You can just slow the car down, go through the normal line, and just slide on through, or do you take the outer line where all the grip level is and just ride the outside and just rim shot the outer half of the racetrack? There's two distinctive lines. Both could be quick, but which one's going to be the fastest?
And you got to wonder too if the guy driver you're battling is going to take that line as well. So you've got a lot going on here in these conditions. And oh, by the way, you can't destroy those rain tires because now they've got to last you 2 more laps. Keck looking to the inside, thinks better of it. Discretion's better part of valor. He thinks he's still got a couple more times that he can take care of this as they work their way around. Yeah, look at the damp spots and look at the dry spots as you're looking down towards turn number 17. And you're going to see some weird lines here in the next couple of laps as drivers try and preserve their rain tires.
Yeah, still lots of spray that's still coming out of the track and a lot of standing water as well. The track is somewhat drying as well, but it's definitely still pretty damp out there and pretty wet. So caution is still there, and it needs to be holding within the wind as we see Bob Norian in the 89 coming out of the corner. Takes a little bit of wider line on the exit than Mike Keck does. Keck able to try to get into a little bit of a slipstream from the 89 of Bob Norian as they go into turn number 1 with 2 laps to go.
By the way, that previous camera shot around turn number 17, Eurosport fan club is standing out there. So, hi, guys. Hopefully you're enjoying what's going to turn out to be a fantastic race here in the closing laps. White flag next time by for our leader, Sean Varwig. But nonetheless, we're still watching this battle for the third spot overall GT5 lead. And again, it is the 89 of Bob Norian and the 691 of Mike Keck as they come around turn number 3. Still about 1 to 2 car lengths separate the two drivers as they work their way around turn 4. Did I see Keck get a little squirrely there?
Yeah, both drivers know what's waiting in the balance here, and Keck just trying to squeeze a little bit more throttle as much as he can to get a little bit better exit than Bob Norian is. He could see Bob in front of him, and that's the thing. Like, Mike Keck is in the catbird seat because he could see what Norian's doing. Keck looks to the inside here at turn number 6, can't do it as he goes back into the dry line, falls right back in line of Bob Norian. But that's the thing. You're looking at two different distinctive lines. Any advantage you can try to do. Norian going to take the higher line. Keck might go to the inside here. Norian might get a little squirrely here on the entry. He slides a little bit, goes into the dry line up top here. Keck gets a good, decent run. Both these guys just struggling for grip as much as they can. Keck take a lower line. Norian high line. Keck gets a little sideways through turn number 9. Now they go through turn number 10. Who's going to get back on the power first? Who's going to get the traction? Slower car, lap car ahead. It's going to get out of the way. Let the two leaders battle as they race off into turn number 11.
Wait a second. Is that the 51 and 51 that's slow? Could that be? No, it's not. Okay, so that's Roshinsky in the 7. All right, back to our GT5 lead as the white flag is out for Sean Varwig, but we are following closely this battle for the GT5 lead between Bob Norian and Mike Keck. We've seen both make a little mistake, and the others tried to take advantage of it, but they really couldn't. And there's our 51 taking the white flag. So, okay, so got to remember the eyebrow sticker on top. GT5 leaders making their way through turn number 15, but there's our overall leader. It's Sean Varwig, and he's already put a couple more cars a lap down, including the 161 of Tom Herb. It's has been an interesting battle here as well, as we do see the 24 of Val moving up. And, yeah, Tom Herb's even having some issues with a little bit of grip. But nonetheless, we're seeing throughout this GT Challenge race, everybody doing the best they can. There goes Varwig, and he's going to put Tom Herb one lap down.
Varwig now continuing to pass through live traffic, taking a little bit lower line there. And the reason why he does that is because the rubber line's on the outside. So he goes a half a line lower where the offline is, tries to get the braking application down that he needs to do, and then he goes back into the offline realm on the outside part of the track as we continue to see Varwig now get the drive down off of turn number 10 into turn number 11, puts another car lap down. That looks like it's the 0-2-3, I believe, of Sean V. It goes into the 24, of Valdez. Valdez going into turn number 12. But we continue to watch the battle between the GT5 guys as now they've taken the white flag. 1 lap to go. Sean Varwig going over the jump and onto the North Circuit.
And this is going to be a great way to cap off the season for the young driver, as he's made a good season of himself with Kelly Moss Racing in, looks like your GT5 leaders making their way through turn 4 as well, into 5 as they get around Dan Go. But our eyes are on Varwig, and it's great to see good drivers make their way from the front. We remember that SM2 battle a couple years ago between he and John Joe Duane.
Absolutely, and the legacy continues on with Sean Varwig, coming off of getting a second-place qualifying effort out at Indianapolis a couple weeks back, then caps it off. That was probably the down point of his whole season. He then capped it off with the second-place finish out at WeatherTech Laguna Seca, and another top 10 to cap off the season, and he's going to try to cap off his another season with the win with 2 corners left to go.
Eyes on Varwig as he comes around turn number 18 and 19. He's come close in Porsche Carrera Cup presented by Deluxe, but he's going to taste victory on the top step of the podium. Twin checkers are out. Sean Varwig is your overall and GT1 winner in the GT Challenge. Now let's see if we can find the GT1 battles there down the back straightaway, heading into turn number 11. See if we can get that shot in turn number 11. And it looks like that 89 is looking pretty good. Oh, Benning holding off Keck just a little bit as they come down onto the North Circuit. So Norian, he's gotten a bigger gap than what he's used to, and Keck looks like he's slowing just a little bit, or trying to get around Benning as he comes around turn number 13. It's interesting because Benning's leaving a little bit of a gap on the outside, and yep, there goes Benning, allowing Keck to go around. Look at the lean, though, on the 89 of Norian. Jordan, I've got to say, it's been an interesting race for the two of them, and I think this is the biggest lead we've seen anyone have in GT5.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in this point, Norian has comfortably got himself in the lead. He just needs to keep it on the black stuff right here, bring it on home. There is a lap car of Dave Varwick right in front of him, but I think he's not going to be able to catch him in time. And if Norian keeps it on the black stuff, I think he's going to come home with today's race win.
And that's what's going to be interesting here is, yeah, he's going to slow down just a little bit. Doesn't need to pass Varwig for anything right now as they're coming through turn number 18 and into 19. And what a great season it's been for both Norian and Keck. Well, Norian will get the win unofficially. And until we get the points, we're not 100% sure, but we do believe that Keck will eke out with the points championship. Twin checkers are out. Yeah, and that's going to be 4 wins on the season for Bob Norian to the 5 of Mike Keck. So really any tiebreaker would go to Keck. What a race this has been. It was one of the more interesting GT races of the season. There's your class winners. Sean Varwig in GT1, Val in GT3, Brett Scroggin making his way in GT4, and Bob Norian in GT5.
Field now kind of making their way, still coming to get the checkers. We have some cars coming in the back a little bit, coming to get them. That would see the 2 BMWs and John Ranty in the 339 on their way back right now. But definitely a good way to start off the Oktoberfest. Great race here we'll be able to see.